Okay, welcome. This is the Select Board meeting for Thursday, January 27th. First item on the agenda is a salute to the American flag. This way. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Things are a little bit disarrayed still. I hope you all appreciate the fabulously shiny floor. They did a great job, and we're still trying to get things all back in place. Next is an approval of the agenda.
I make a motion we approve the agenda as written.
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Next is the minutes of the last meeting.
I make a motion we approve the minutes of the last meeting as written.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. I want to open this evening's meeting with just a quick comment or two. Inspired by some of the actions of our fellow human beings in the Middle East in the last few days. I was thinking about it today as I was listening to the news. You know, we saw what happened to Tunisia last week, Cairo earlier this week, cities in Yemen and the city of Beirut today. The people took to the streets and exercised what we in this country really feel is a true right of being a human, which was to express their discontent and to express their desire for change. And I was thinking about our town of Acton and how fortunate we are to live in a country and in a society that already has that freedom guaranteed, and how important it is to me, and I think to our board, to maintain that and to encourage the public to use our meetings to express discontent for the things that our board does. That is important, and that is part of why we are here, and it is why we always include any other business at the end. I want to continue to maintain a board that welcomes your critique and your criticism of us and the job that we are doing. I also want to extend a request and a kind of an insistence that your critique that is presented at these meetings is for our board and our performance alone. That our board meetings not be used as a platform to criticize other public officials or the work of other boards. If you as a citizen have a complaint with another public official that is elected, please take it up with those elected officials in the way that is appropriate to do so. And if you have a concern with how another board in town is functioning, please go speak to that board and their chair first. And if you do not have the recourse required from doing that, then you may come and speak to us, especially if it's an appointed board. But with a concern, in order for the public's discontent to be most effective, it needs to be directed at the person that is causing the discontent. If our board does something that the public disapproves of, I want to hear about it, and it doesn't matter if it's a minority that feels that way, it's still valuable to have that dissent in a productive manner. But let's remember that this board is open and wanting to hear the concerns and critique of what our board has done, but the other public officials in this town also deserve the respect of having your concerns for them be directed to them first. So just thinking about that this week, encouraged by what we're seeing in the Middle East and the people there standing up and saying, you know, we want the same freedoms that we all really take for granted, and really thinking about with great freedom comes great responsibility. To maintain that freedom, we have to use it responsibly. So I want to just say that this evening before we got started. Thank you for obliging me. Next item, under old business, we have the gravel expenditure. A concern was brought up last week regarding a purchase of materials that were being held on a private site, and we wanted to, as a board, to address that. So, yes, a purchase of gravel was made from Eastern Materials for $5,600 last year. The warrant was for June 23rd warrant. I believe the meeting that it was signed at was June 25th. It was a previous board's warrant. Unfortunately, I was not in attendance to that meeting, so I cannot speak to any discussion that happened. I was dropping my children off at 4-H camp that evening. But it was signed for. It was a legally done purchase, and I think that the idea of having gravel or culverts or something of value being left at the town salt shed is sometimes a thing of concern, and that having them someplace where they can be watched is not an inappropriate decision to be made. And it was a decision that was made in good faith and with good intent. And so we are not concerned about materials. We know where they are. We know that they are fully accessible. They are available to be viewed by the public if the public wishes to go and see them. And we just wanted to address that the purchase was made legitimately, it was signed off by the previous board, and that if the public does wish to see these materials, they are available to be seen. Okay? So if there are any further questions about that during any other business, we can deal with that, or privately would be lovely as well. Next item under old business from last week, 2 weeks ago rather, was the Buzzell Road, and for that, Mr. Kryzak.
Yeah, at the last meeting, it was brought up that I had said at a selectmen's meeting that I would put the private roads back up for the town to vote on again, and that it was in the minutes. So I went back and watched all the videos and read the minutes from all of our selectmen's meetings since I've been on board, and it was never discussed at any, I've never said anything at any of our selectmen's meetings. I did, however, talk about it during the town meeting before I became selectman, but I posed it as questions to our moderator, Richard Nass, when the warrant came up, the warrant article came up to approve the private and public roads in a group. And I asked Richard Nass if it was possible for us to table that article because there was so much discussion at the town meeting, and then bring it up again at, in the November election. And Richard said that it was not suggested because it was already on the floor and it had to be voted on. So that article was voted on, and the town voted it down. So it has been legally put out there. The town voted it down, so we cannot bring it forward again. The town meeting will be rebroadcast so everybody can see what I said and the questions that I asked and how that was left. So it should be on the cable. Where did he go? This week? This week? Next? Oh, he's working on it now. So the entire town meeting will be rebroadcast so people can see what was said and the discussion about that, and then how the vote was made. So as far as we're concerned, there is nothing more we can do, and there'll be time for you to talk during the public part, okay? There is nothing more for us to do right now. Now, the other thing I had tried to mention last time was the fact that there is grant money available only to private roads that have a road association, and that's through the DEP. The town cannot get that money, only road associations can get that money. And when I first came on, Bill Gannon took me around and showed me the issues and what the road committee had worked on last year, and put me in touch with the woman from the DEP, and she told me she would be more than happy to give that money to the private roads because it is a concern of theirs of some of the runoff that's going into the lake. But they would have to come to the DEP as a road association. So there's no way the town can get those funds, but at that time there was $150,000 available to a road association to fix those roads. And the only way that you can get that money is to form a road association and then apply through the DEP as a road association.
During public, Mr. Kelly, can you wait until...
At the end, I wanted to correct a couple of things.
At the end, during public time, then you can come up, okay?
Did you want to address this, or are you good?
Oh yeah, and then back in August, as I was watching these, when I was driving my son down to college, Larissa and Bill had a meeting, and we had gotten an answer from MMA, and copies of it were handed out to the people that were concerned, and it explained at that time that we couldn't do anything more with those roads that were in question, and it gave an explanation why. So if people don't have that, we still have that available. We can give you copies of that. But MMA pretty much told us that there's nothing more we could do, and the only recourse for people that disagreed with what was going on would be for them to take it to court and have a judge make a decision on whether private roads are private or public because of the history of what was done in the town.
Okay. All right, moving on to new business. We have as a guest this evening, we have Linda Shire from the Acton Wakefield Watershed Alliance. Linda, do you want to join us, please?
That's interesting, because that's actually part of what I wanted to talk about was the roads. So I'm Linda Shire from the Acton Wakefield Watersheds Alliance, and I'm here tonight really just to sort of say hi and just give you guys a little bit of an update of where we're at with what our projects are, where we're going. I've made packets for each of you that have a copy of our 2010 YCC report, and I only made three, sorry.
We'll share.
And
I'll take one of those.
okay. It also has our budget information, and I also wanted to just hand you guys our request for funding for next year, before I forgot that. So it's got our budget information in there, list of accomplishments of what we've done and where we're going, a copy of our newsletter, and just sort of wanted to give you an overall update. We finished the Salmon Falls Headwater Management Plan in 2010, and so we got funded by New Hampshire DES to start implementing, doing some of the recommendations in that. So through that, we're continuing to run our Youth Conservation Corps, and to date, our Youth Conservation Corps has installed 162 erosion control measures on 82 properties, done an additional 162 technical assistance, 266 erosion control measures on 82 properties. We have a crew of 8 local youths. It's a great job for these kids. They come out. If you ever get a chance to go to our website, our crew leaders did a video of the kids giving a tour, and they're so enthusiastic, and it's just a really wonderful opportunity for them. You know, this is a really important time for all of us to be looking at the water quality. You know, the lakes in these regions are the industry. They're the economic engine that keeps things going, and you know, with different things happening at the state levels, both in New Hampshire and Maine in terms of environmental protection, it's a really good call to order and an opportunity for the local towns to look at their resources and protect them locally with your own, you know, looking at your ordinances. I know Tom's been working a lot on that, and the planning boards of Acton and Wakefield are getting together to talk about how you know, their different approaches, and so there's lots of opportunity to do some really great stuff. We're also doing a lot of outreach. We're doing floating classrooms this summer, where we'll be out on boats with kids and adults doing, you know, showing them how we test for water quality, taking a look at the little critters that live in there. We've got, we're going to be doing some surveys of seasonal residents to sort of figure out, you know, the people who just come and go and aren't really invested here, what's their feeling of their role in terms of water quality, and how, you know, the big thing is what we do on land is what determines the water quality, and so getting people to make those connections and feel that responsibility is really important. In terms of where we're going next, we were talking about roads, and we did watershed surveys of all the lakes and identified where some of the problems were, and identified some very key ones on Great East Lake and also on Wilson Lake. And so the funds that you were talking about, that's the main, they call it 319, which is the Clean Water Act money. And road associations are able to apply for that, but so are watershed organizations. And so we're working with the Great East Lake Improvement Association and the Wilson Lake Association to apply for one of those grants to fix some of those road problems. We're working with the Langley Shores Association and the Hawk Road Association, the Eagle Road Association. And my big question for you guys is, the one thing I'm not clear on is, where does the town's line on Buzzell Road end?
That is, of course, the question of the decade.
Yeah.
Currently, we feel that it ends, and I think that I'm not misspeaking here, approximately 300 feet after the first fork. Nancy or Lorraine, do you want to?
No.
No,
We
Scott.
have-
Actually, Scott would be the best person to answer.
Scott would have that information, but we do have the layout of Buzzell Road. And, you know, we've got the
It's
deed.
not where Lakeside and Foley.
No.
Okay,
The
so
little
the
further.
hill
No.
is not
I mean,
town.
Right.
there's been so much I believe it is, the town land does own to Foley, but the town has always maintained, they've always agreed to maintain just 300 feet down that road. That's where the town maintenance line stops.
Okay. Because
what
we
I'm
can
always-
apply for grant
it's-
funding to fix the problems on the town-owned portion of it. But because there is no entity responsible.
Right.
The DEP will not grant money to, you know, fix a road that no one's gonna maintain. So, I need to have that very clearly, in my head, and I'll, you know, show you guys the proposal about, because there are issues on the town-owned portion of it, I know that. And so we can write that into the grant, but, you know, whether or not any of that hill gets addressed, that's something
Okay.
I need you guys to
So,
tell me.
Scott, could you work with Linda on that? Okay, that would be great.
I'm actually, Joey Anderson from York County Soil and Water, he and I are partnering on this, and he's much more of a road guy, so I think he'll be talking to you and make sure we have that all really clearly
Thank you.
etched out. You know, when that grant will be due in May, I think, and so,
So even without a road association, you'll be able to spend money on that road?
only on the town part.
Only on the town part?
Right.
Okay, but if there was a road association there, you could go beyond that?
If there was an association that was, for instance, you know, the Langley Shores Association, we have 2 sites on Langley Shores that need to be fixed. So they, I mean, number one, they're matching some of the funds, which is a key piece of this.
Right.
And then, you know, they will agree to maintain it because, you know, a best management practice, BMPs we call them, are only as good as they are maintained. And so DEP will only grant money when they can show that there's some entity out there that's willing to do the maintenance. So on the town part, obviously, the town would be responsible for that. So that's the key issue. And it has to be, and for them, it has to be a statutory road association. I mean, it has to be an actual legal entity if it's a private road. So, so the only other thing I wanted to mention is that I just wanted to introduce Dustin Johnson, who is our new program manager, and he's going to be running our Youth Conservation Corps, and he's also doing a lot of outreach, reaching out to the community right now and people to gather stuff. So I'll just give it over to Dustin. He can just tell you a little bit about himself. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Dustin Johnson. I just got hired by AWA in November. A little bit. I grew up in Limerick actually, just down the road, and then I went to school for about 7 years, got a couple degrees, and I'm back in the area looking to really help improve and maintain our quality of life and our environment and our lakes, which are dire to all of us. Like Linda said, be heading up the YCC this year, which is a great program for the kids. And my ultimate goal being back here is to really work with homeowners, people that live in Acton, Wakefield, and the surrounding area, and be a resource to you and everyone else that lives here, as well as the town itself. So people are welcome to contact us, contact me, and work through these problems so we can really maintain our environment. So thank you.
Thank you, welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have Mr. Cashin and Mr. Paul to do part 3 of our educational series on a bit of zoning ordinance stuff that will be before us at town meeting this year.
Just to recap where we were last year, last meeting, we went through the maps and looked at all the proposed resource protection, which was in yellow, looked at them and basically removed most of them from what was proposed the first time along the waterfront, the lakes and things like that. So most of those have all been removed and will stay as regular shoreline zoning. Working with the zoning ordinance itself, we worked on the first 3 sections. Most of it was all minor changes, adding a few definitions. In this area here in the zoning district, we're actually going to add verbiage for where all these districts start and stop on maps and lots and roads and things like that. Yep, we want to get some of those.
We have some hard copies if anyone has difficulty seeing the screen. Keep expenses down, we just make 4 copies, so if anyone wants a copy tonight to keep on going with what Ken's doing, just raise your hand.
And if anybody's got a question, just raise your hand, we'll stop, look, and discuss that issue. As Tom said, we haven't started printing anything yet. We want to make sure this is going to work. We're going to go to the planning board, go through that process with them. Then at that point, we'll know we're made at that time. We want to come back and print that and just keep moving forward. this document we're using was the proposed ordinance in, last year, so it's not the existing ordinance, so we're still using that old proposed ordinance, so we're pulling some of that stuff out. Here it was changing, the setbacks to 15 feet, which were at 10 for side setbacks. For non-conforming lots, we'll just go back to 10 for those, for the non-conforming lots. This section here was proposed to be a strikeout and removed. What that was allowing was if you've got a lot with 2 houses on it and it didn't meet the standards, it would allow you to still split that lot. You would have 2 substandard lots at that time, but the state looks at it as you've already got 2 houses on that. You're really not going to add any more use to the property. But as it gets sold and kids end up with it, it's really hard in their compound, so this would still allow you to split them if you needed to. It would, in one aspect, create another non-conforming lot, but it's not creating any more non-conformity because the 2 houses are already there. Yes. Under the best possible location section, this is when you have a non-conforming structure and you're looking, it's burnt down, or you're looking to rip it down and replace it. It does not meet the setbacks. The process is you go through the planning board. It's located on the lot in the best spot. Most times they're in the best spot as they are already. This is going to require that you need to acquire a building permit within a year. Right now, it's wide open. Once you go through that process, it doesn't say that you need to activate and keep moving. So it leaves it wide open. We'll just put a sunset after that. We're just going to relocate some of these so it makes it a little bit easier to find stuff. And here we were looking at deleting, talking about the setback and shoreline and resource protection, because the non-conformity is all setbacks in the best possible location, not just the water setbacks. Resource protection. In this section here, it talks about the 30% expansions that's in the shoreline district, also resource protection. That would come under the DEP guidelines on that. All the existing stuff that you see all underlined are the changes that were proposed in the ordinance last year. Most of it is all DEP guidelines. When we did not adopt this ordinance last year, we ended up adopting the Green Book, which was required by the DEP. So our shoreline zoning is compliant, but there's a lot of conflict between the two. These are just changing the numbers so they do correlate to where they're supposed to. The numbers are good. And over the years with tweaked and changed and things that are deleted and added, some of the numbers just don't line up where they send you to. Just removing this subdivision review up there. That didn't apply. In this area here in the tables, it continuously had this heading in there. We're going to add the numbers, get rid of this heading for the following pages, just to, in hopes, by the end of the book, get rid of about 10 pages, just cleaning things up. A couple of different land uses we were looking at was storage also, getting that included in there. Again, this would be the area we're pulling the header out, just using those small numbers. 2-family dwellings, currently it's conditional uses. We were looking at that just being a permitted use, except for in the shoreline zone. That would be you don't need a conditional use for a 2-family.
And would a 2-family residence, would that include like a mother-in-law apartment?
Exactly.
Excellent.
Yeah. Automotive repair garage was just added a few years ago. Currently it got removed in this proposed. We're going to put it back in most of the districts under site plan review and conditional use through the planning board. There's a few districts I think was added. Most of it was just minor stuff as far as things that was a strikeout and we just adding back in. Cemeteries, we're adding the word public in there. We had a private cemetery come to us this year, and it turned out to be a conditional use farm, but that really wasn't the intention, so we're gonna add the word public in there also. Not to include family plots. Yeah. Vegetation. That is all required. Automotive repair garage, we pulled the word out, attendant seal of gasoline. A repair garage is just that, it's a repair garage, it's not a gas station, so we just pulled that word out of it. Exactly. Billboard, currently it reads as 6 square feet, which is very small by standards for a billboard. And we were going to recheck the state definition for that. I believe it's 32 square feet. They're prohibited anyways, so we were just making sure that the businesses could have a sign that was at least reasonable. Planning board is looking at the sign ordinance separately also at this time, and I think the intention is just to follow the state guidelines of that. Under the definition of building, pulling that word permanent out, so everything is a structure. It's not just a permanent one on that. Dwelling unit, it talked about being a rented unit here. Any dwelling unit is the intention of that ordinance, so we just pulled that word rented out. Mobile home, changing that word to manufactured housing, so it meets with the state standards. Politically correct. Replacement system, adding to that definition the word septic, so the true intent of it is the replacement septic system is what they're talking about there. Setbacks, in the verbiage for setbacks, which you'd be required to keep so far away for building structures or creating, the word parking space was in there, we proposed to remove that, so that would not need to meet the setbacks. That would be a tough one to interpret and enforce. Subdivision, rewording this so it meets the state standard currently, where it talks about adding a street to any subdivision would automatically make it a major subdivision. That's in conflict with the state, so we're just going to make the definitions of subdivision, major and minor, mimic the state subdivision law, so that's more consistent. I think that was about the last change. So that will get us sections 1, 2, and 3 all caught up, and like I said, we'll bring those to the planning board and hopefully come back with section 4 and 5 in the near future.
Excellent. So we should expect to maybe see section 4. Would you be wanting to do 4 and 5 together, or would you do 4 and then, I mean,
There's a lot to 4. It's going to be all the setbacks and all the districts and zones.
so do you want to do those separately? Maybe count on coming back with section 4?
I think just 4 separate.
Okay.
Well, one of the town is more or less accepted. I don't see, and we didn't propose any changes.
We haven't got to 4 yet, but I had a couple of minor things. There wasn't much in there.
I would hope we could do 4 and 5.
At the same time.
All right, well, keep us apprised as to what you'd like to have happen.
as our committee works through it.
Great.
Any questions?
All right, thanks. Oh,
The editing that's presented here, I mean, obviously the final thing is not gonna be able to have any yellow highlighted stuff. I assume that's gonna be cleaned up so that it accurately reflects current ordinance versus
Definitely.
proposed, correct?
Yeah. That would be much more easier and simpler to look at, to show what's new and what's been deleted.
Great, thank you.
all right, thank you, gentlemen, very much for your time. Great job. Okay. Well, do we want to, I guess we already
We have to
approved the
do it in
agenda.
order,
Yep.
Okay, appointment of Warrant and Finance Committee member. I make a motion, we appoint Jim Driscoll to the Warrant and Finance Committee.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Do we do the other one too now, or do we
we'll
do
have
that
to
under
the end.
appointments?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, next item on the agenda. Bill is the liaison for our board to all things transfer station, and we wanted to kind of have him jump on that tonight, so go ahead, Bill.
Well, you're not doing justice.
We're going to do that under number 5, because we didn't amend the agenda, as we should have.
All right, the transfer station has been a subject of a lot of discussion in the last couple of weeks and everything, and we want to set the record straight as exactly what happened. The word on the street is that both Irvin Pillsbury and Roger Lewis were fired by the Board of Selectmen. And this is patently untrue. Irvin Pillsbury submitted his retirement or his resignation around the end of October, saying that he would stop working at the start of the year. Irvin was not terminated, fired in any way. Roger Lewis was fired by the company he works for, D&E Rubbish Removal. He was discharged for reasons that, the D&E rubbish people feel were sufficient. So the Board of Selectmen had nothing to do with either termination of these two gentlemen. What the board does understand, though, and it's became more and more evident the last month or so, is that the transfer station was pretty dysfunctional. Had a situation where you have a supervisor who is not on site, is not available during the day, just by a cell phone leaving a message, and there's been a lot of issues. I think a lot of people are unhappy with the way the goodie shack has been handled. Things put in it that shouldn't have been put there. It's been a real problem. So the board decided the best thing to do would be to, eliminate both positions of manager and supervisor and combine them in a new position called the on-site superintendent for the transfer station. We have come up with a description, a job description for this new position. It's being advertised in the papers and wherever else we advertise it.
It'll be on the internet and on cable tonight.
It's on cable tonight. And we expect that roughly around the start of March, we will have a new on-site transfer station superintendent. The description of this position Will this be on?
Will be available, absolutely.
Yeah, you can get it on the town webpage, you can download it there, and the job description won't be on the cable. The cable will just have the ad for the job, telling you to go to the town website if you want to see the job description.
There will also be a copy in Lorraine's office. If anyone is interested, they can come there.
So the upshot of everything is there's going to be kind of a change of guard at the transfer station. We expect that this will be a much smoother operation now. The people that have to make the decisions will be on site, and we look forward to better goodie shack availability to the people of town that like to, use these pre-owned clothes and so forth. Right now, the D&E rubbish removal company has put a new operator in that shack, in the control room. It's not completely clear yet if this guy is going to be a full-time, or let's say a long-term employee or not. I spoke with the owner of D&E twice with the idea that perhaps he could rehire Roger, but unfortunately he felt that the position that he filled with another person was going to stay that way. This job description will be posted. Anybody can apply for it, and I would assume that Roger probably will apply for it. So that is the status right now of the transfer station. We believe that this will be a much better operation once we come up with the new on-site transfer station superintendent. I think that pretty much covers the situation on the transfer station at this point.
Great.
But later on, if there are any questions, we'll be glad to answer them.
All right, thank you, Bill. And I'm just going to toss out there also, Bill has actually been a great liaison for the transfer station. He is up there pretty much every day that the transfer station is open, and has really been great at being on the ground and keeping track of what's been going on up there. So thanks, Bill. Nicely done. All right, we have one more appointment.
I make a motion, we appoint Jennifer Rue to be Register of Voters from until December 31st, 2012.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Excellent.
This is a biannual, we have to do this every 2 years for the state, and we were just reminded that that time was up, so it's just got to be done every 2 years.
Okay. Any other business? Barbara. Oh, Jack is up.
I made a couple of notes here. After the meeting 2 weeks ago, I thought about it, and it was actually, the remarks were brought up at Acton, the Town Road Committee meeting. And Larissa, you were there.
Yep.
Okay. So I apologize. You didn't make the remarks. I know what you said at the town meeting, but it wasn't you. And then the other thing on the Buzzell Road issue, DEP, we had them at our road committee meetings, which I'm sure you were there.
Yeah.
And Lynn Scher, she can back me up on this. As far as the town applying for funds, they could actually, from what she said, and you correct me if I'm wrong, the town could actually donate equipment and manpower, labor, in lieu of monies.
But not on private roads.
Not on private roads, no. But, they have identified that as a top priority area. You got phosphorus running into the Great East Lake. So those were just the two things that I wanted to say. I didn't have, access to the minutes, but I know it was brought up that, where it failed, that article failed, that each of the roads would go on their own merits. In other words, they could each be brought up, and I think there was talk of having a public hearing before that.
Right, and that's what I mentioned
Yeah,
at the town
yeah.
meeting, and that's when Richard said that, no, it's on the floor, we have to vote on it now.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so then we did the vote, and it
Yeah.
was voted down, so.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we've been progressing since then. I mean, we have this thing that from MMA, what did I do with it, that came in August, and she pretty much answered all the additional questions that came on, because it was these questions about,
Well, the question,
the things that we had put in, culverts and things like that, so that made it a town road and all that. And so they answered all of those questions. Now, and then she said, the only recourse is to go to court and have a judge make a determination which road is private and which is
If I
public.
lived on Buzzell Road, I'd be organizing a group.
Yeah,
you know,
or the other
hire-
option,
Hire
option.
legal counsel and
Yeah.
put it before a court.
Yeah, and because we're talking about history,
Right.
they're gonna have to go back through history and decide and look at the laws and everything else. Or the other option is to form a road association, bring it up to the ordinance, and then you get
Well,
approved by the
I
town.
think their argument is they feel as though they are a town lake,
Right.
so.
Jack, can you just stay for a second?
Sure.
So when you said that we can donate equipment and labor, so if AWA is applying for funds through DEP, and whereas a road association like Langley Shores is able to match monies, which makes DEP happy. On the towns, so you're talking about on the town section of Buzzell Road, we are able as a town to bring before the people, would you like to match DEP in terms of
Right.
equipment and labor?
And, correct me if I'm wrong.
Right, yes.
Yeah, it is true.
Okay,
And you could contact Wendy Garland.
yep, I've spoken to Wendy.
Just
Yep.
to, double check on it, but from my memory of the meeting, that's what she had said. You know,
Okay.
the monies are there, it's just, they're not gonna come up with all the money.
Right.
Yeah, and we can do
The
the
towns
in-kind.
have to do.
In kind.
do
Yeah, we
match.
do the
So-
in-kind, and we could do that on the town roads, but because of that new law, we can't do it on the
Right,
private roads.
right.
And we used to, I mean, and if we could, we would.
Yeah.
It's not like we don't want to do
Oh, I
it,
know,
because
I know
it's
that.
just that, because they changed the law, we can't do it anymore.
So between York County Soil and Water contacting Scott and figuring out, where is that line? Figuring out what part of that,
That's a contentious subject. I mean,
Yes.
as to where the town road ends and
Right.
where the private road.
but we can at least bring something, work with DEP and Linda and figure out on the part that's not being contested.
Yeah,
That part needs help too.
right,
So on the part that's not being contested, we can work towards getting that dealt with.
right. The whole road
What's
needs
the
it.
deadline for that?
For what, Linda?
For anything that goes to warrant? We're planning to have that proposal done by March.
Okay,
That,
I think that if you had a proposal done by March, that would be good for us. We're going to want the warrant to be fully crafted no later than mid-April, late April at the absolute latest, because we're going to want to get it before the people in enough time for them to look at it and talk about it.
yeah, we pretty much have numbers already, so I can share that with you once, you know.
Okay, thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
Dennis Long. First off, I'd like to say that I think the three of you are doing a great job, and the floor looks very nice.
Thanks, Dennis.
Any other business? Barbara, with, I hope, some very exciting, inspirational news here.
Yes, but before I get to that, I would like to make a statement. I appreciate having this wonderful board to work with and the many committees throughout the town. I won't complain about any particular individual, except last week, after the meeting had ended, I was approached by someone
Oh, we're not gonna do that.
shaking a
Barbara.
paper in my face.
Yeah, Barbara,
That's not right.
Yeah, but this isn't the place for that.
Where would you do it?
You would talk to the individual outside of the town meeting. This is.
I
this is
did,
for- this
I
is
did,
for-
but
this
that
is the
should
meeting-
be for everyone.
No,
not
this is a
just
meeting
one.
for the business of the town.
And if it
okay?
had taken
that's
place
not town
during our
business.
meeting, then it would be our responsibility to step in and make sure that that didn't
But
happen.
it wasn't, it was right soon as
Right.
the camera went off.
So that is
Okay.
private business, please.
Okay. All right. I'll get on to the other business. I did mention the last time that I, about raising money to have new chairs. So, I've proceeded with Marion. We have a ta-da moment. We have a bank account, and I want to explain, It's in my name, and Bill Shields is on the account also, and it has to be in my name because the lady at the bank said there cannot be a chair fund for a person or whatever you want on that line. And I said, why not? You can have Steve's Greenhouses or Mooney Construction. Why can't you have chair fund? She said, it's not proper. So it's in my name. I'm not trying to raise money for me. Anyways, we want to fill this up. There's one little red mark way down at the bottom. We've already received one check. And I have little papers to fill out, and I'll keep a record of everything, everyone that's contributed. And if you contribute $25, you can do that in the name of a business, in the name of someone you want to memorialize, whatever. And I'll keep a record of that. So I have permission to hang this on the wall.
And we will look forward to, you know, maybe monthly, maybe hope,
Yeah.
fillings ups of the,
I will keep you up to date.
excellent,
There
excellent.
you go. You can put it up higher. There you go. You got to be able to reach the bottom.
May I ask a question, a pertinent question?
I think so, yes.
Are there going to be any recliners?
Any what?
Are there going to be any recliners?
You'd have to donate a lot more than 25.
Stackable chairs, hopefully. And if this comes along the way I expect it will, maybe by the June meeting, we'll have new chairs, or be able to have a committee go out and look at the chairs. Thank you.
Exciting. Thank you, Barbara.
Kind of thing that'll be at Ted's auctions?
Ethan.
Is that the kind of thing that'll be at Ted's auctions up in Auburn?
It could be, but then at the auction that Gary Grant is gonna have in the summer, we might be able to get rid of these.
Marion.
Yes, you know, we've had so many storms, and there's been so much criticism about where to put snow and so on and so forth. I felt that I would like to compliment the road commissioner for the North End. Every time there's been a storm, I've looked out and been able to see bare pavement right across the street from my house. And the voters voted that gentleman in overwhelmingly, and I think they made a wise decision. I'm so thrilled with the work that's done. My street was better than 109. Another thing I would like to comment on is I think that we have an excellent board, excellent. And it disturbs me to have some individuals feel that they should try to micromanage the town's business. I think you're doing a fantastic job and don't need the help. Thank you.
Thank you, Marion.
Okay?
Thank you.
That's my concern tonight.
Thank you very much, Marion. And I think that we do. With all the snow that we've had in the last couple of weeks, our road commissioners and their crews have been doing an amazing job. I know that, you know, whichever end of town I'm on, I feel like we're going to get there safely, and good job, guys. Certainly. I've heard nothing but really great things. We've had an email come in from the north end side of town as well from Linda Peterson, congratulating Scott on such a great job. We would like to hear that. So, whichever side of town you live on, if you have a clear road in front of you, please send us an email. Let us know so that we can make sure that people hear about that. That's a good thing to hear. So thank you very much.
Scott, what did you say? We got our annual accumulation in 2 weeks?
That's about what we got.
Yeah.
So,
Up to date.
yes. Our road commissioners and their families are probably tired at this point, but they're still out there doing a great job. So thank you, guys. Any other business? Okay. Does anybody have any announcements?
Yeah, well, the floor, they came in and spent the last week here. They put 3 coats on, and then they're gonna come back in May and do 2 additional coats, come back and sand it. And then, it'll be a lot easier to maintain after that, I think he said just once a year, is what we did at the gym, yeah. Yeah,
In light of that,
Ms. Ruma, would you like to come to the mic, please?
At the seniors' luncheon yesterday, the suggestion was made that perhaps another piece of carpet coming in from the front door would pick up some more of that salt and help to preserve the floor, so that, I think that would help a lot, because that's where most of the sand and stuff landed.
That's a good idea.
I have an announcement also. So earlier this fiscal year, I got voted on, it was not hard, there's only 2 seats and 2 people running, but to be on the Legislative Policy Committee at the MMA. And I just want to invite anyone in town. The MMA is the Maine Municipal Association, and the Legislative Policy Committee looks at proposed pieces of legislation that affect municipalities. And we send a rather strong message to the legislatures about how we feel that legislation would affect the municipality and whether we're for it or against it. So if you are inclined to read legislation that is being bantied about in Augusta and you have an opinion on it, please let me know. I'm up there once a month. I was up there yesterday. We went over 35 bills and discussed them. And if you, as a resident of Acton, have a concern about a bill that you know is coming forward, please let me know, and I can make sure to get that voiced up there as well. So I just want to toss that out as something. Mr. Cashin.
I was wondering if the board would consider inviting Joan Nass to come in some evening soon, while bills are being put in the hopper in Augusta, and if she would consider, I don't know if they've ever done this as a custom, but it might be a good custom to start, to have a yearly town meeting, so to speak, with the voters in town that they represent, prior to things really getting cranking in Augusta, maybe in March or April.
We can certainly ask her. I mean, Joan is very busy between being up in Augusta and also, yep, she's very active on working with York County Advocacy Group, but I'm sure we would be thrilled to have Joan come in and we can give her a call and see if she's available. Great. But there are 1,800 bills that have been proposed this year for the legislature to look at. I don't expect people to want to read through all of them. They're not very riveting, but if there's one that catches your eye and you feel passionately about it, please do let me know so I can bring up that concern up to the MMA. Also, clearly let your legislators know, Joan and Ron Collins, they would be your first line, but if I can bring up a concern as well, that would be great.
I'll call Ron too.
Okay.
Is there a website for strictly municipal?
I think if you went to the MMA's website, they might have some things that are tagged. I'm not sure if they're a public domain or not. But if you're looking through the bills and it's something that pertains to, like yesterday we were looking at things about distances that sex offenders can live from public schools. Well, that's a municipal issue. So that is something that we were talking about and dealing with. So if there's something that catches your eye in the newspaper that you think should be a municipal concern, even if MMA hasn't spotted it as one, that doesn't mean that it can't be brought forward to be discussed. Anything else?
I do. I got one more thing.
Please come join us.
This is kind of an afterthought, but Mary Grant does not get mentioned very often. It's not busy right now, but we had a meeting Tuesday night, and I want you to know they are working diligently over there. There'll be a facility so you don't have to pee on a tree. It will be ready for the summer.
Excellent. And I believe that there will be some sort of summer soiree that's in the works at the Mary Grant Preserve. And the Mary Grant Preserve is also open for business, great snowshoeing along the trails there in the woods, and encourage people to go take advantage of its public property. Please go take advantage of a nice space that's available to us. Great, thank you. All right, guys.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, let's shake hands, gentlemen.
Absolutely.
This meeting 10.